Closing date is fast approaching for the Winchester Business Excellence Awards nominations. Winchester is proud of its independent businesses, and let's face it, it's often a challenge to go it alone and survive as an independent or small business. This time there are 4 categories: the Entrepreneur of the Year Award, Green Business of the Year Prize, the Independent Business of the Year Award, and the creme de la creme, the Business of the Year accolade sponsored by Delplan. Now, isn't this encouraging, you know, for small businesses to give them recognition and show independent traders also some recognition?
I think small businesses need all the help they can get these days. It's quite an uphill battle, just getting yourself out there and getting known. So these awards are fantastic.
Yeah, getting started and also sustaining it. And,
that's it.
And surviving.
And giving them that help and a little bit of extra kudos and is really very, very helpful.
Yeah. It's also the recognition that you get, because sometimes, especially when you start on your own and work on your own a lot, you know, having a bit of recognition that what you do is actually worthwhile is nice too.
Yes.
Yes, because both of you have run your own businesses, and you know, and how was it for you both setting up in the beginning?
I think it's quite hard initially, because a lot of what we do is by people who will talk to other people, so it's you know, you have to wait until that spreads a bit.
Yes.
And you know, so it does take a while, doesn't it, for people to get to know you and come and find you.
Yes.
So.
It's hard work, and there's also an element of trust. You're not going to go into a hypnotherapist unless you know them and therefore trust them. You're not going to recommend them.
No.
Unless you believe in them yourself. So yeah, it's not easy to start up. And they say it takes 3 years, and actually it's true. Doesn't matter how hard you work. Yeah, it really takes that sort of time to build up your credentials and be known.
Yeah, I would say 3 years is quite a good time scale. Yeah.
And Ralph, what's your reaction to this story? I mean, a lot of small businesses are battling, or really having to persevere to survive because of the, you know, the big chains and the big, you know, the big multinationals and monopolies that are in their midst as well.
Well, when I started theatrical costumiers many years ago, which was now run by my son.
Yes.
So I've had my wife and I handed over to him many years ago. But we started very small, buying up basically mortgaging our house, buying other little theatrical costumiers up, until eventually we basically cornered the market, whereupon the big boys started moving in, and we found it quite difficult at one time. But eventually we got our big break, I think, is when we bought out Foxes in London.
Right.
And Foxes, when we bought Foxes out, then we were really made. We had over 20,000 costumes then, and we were on the ascendancy. But it took about, I think it probably took about 4 years to pay off the overdraft.
And what part of the country was this? Was this in Hampshire, or was this in London?
This was in Sussex.
Right. Yes. What I thought was interesting is the 4 categories here. You've got the Entrepreneur of the Year Award. You've got the environmental one, so you have to show what you're doing to reduce your carbon footprint and how you're doing in that and how you're progressing. Then also there's one for independent business as well, the Independent Business of the Year, and finally the big one, which is the Business of the Year. So to have that, I'm not sure.
It'd be interesting to find out what the criteria are.
I was going to say.
I was just about to say,
Yes, I don't think I would qualify.
Yes.
Now this is the coverage of this is going to be on Breeze FM. The ceremony takes place on June the 3rd in Winchester Guildhall, and to learn more or to enter, the closing date is February the 26th, so that's not far off now, and it's Winchester Business Awards, one word, winchesterbusinessawards.co.uk. So that's some very encouraging news there. That's all about Winchester businesses. So all the best and good luck to anybody who's taking part in that or entering that. Now, keeping with awards and recognising our school governors, Hampshire alone has some 7,000 of them, would you believe, and they play a very important part in the running and performance of a school. 22 were awarded from across Hampshire at a special ceremony, and a further 10 attended and were thanked and recognised. School governors are in fact volunteers, and this evening we'll be discussing more about their actual role. So more recognition then for people who work hard behind the scenes, school governors. I mean, what do we know about school governors? What do they actually do?
Well, I was a school governor, oh gosh, quite a few years ago,
Oh,
I
right,
must admit.
yes.
When my eldest was at school, so we're talking about 20 odd years ago.
Yes.
But even then, it was really important, and you did an awful lot of work behind the scenes, as you say, raising funds for the school for a start, getting publicity for the school, helping the teachers in various ways. Sometimes we'd even go in and do extra bits in the classroom when
Really?
they ran out of teachers.
I didn't know that.
I don't think it's something that governors do that much, but most governors are really interested in the school, obviously, because they're governors, they want to help, and they will put themselves out a bit. So I
Yes,
think recognition
yeah.
for them and the work they do is fantastic.
Yes. So how many hours a week might a school governor put in? I mean, is that how long is
It
a piece of
doesn't
string
work like
question?
that, really, I don't think. You might go in perhaps 2 or 3 hours a week, but then if you've got a fete coming up or a Christmas coming up and you're raising funds and doing stuff, you're in there virtually every night, or you're at somebody else's house organising stuff and, you know, working out adverts and phoning up different people that you want to be there. So it can take up an awful lot of time.
Yeah, Sophie, you're originally French, although you've
I was going to
become-
say, I just wouldn't know because the system over there was totally different.
Yeah, I was
I
going to say,
went-
do they have them in France?
Not that I'm aware of, no. It's very
No.
much you've got the head of the school, you then have
Mm.
got a vice head or whatever they call it, and then you've got the teachers, and that's pretty much it.
Right.
They have also got, you know, back office kind of admin team, and I suppose some of these fetes and whatever
That's
would be organised actually more by the back office
Yeah.
as opposed.
Well, we don't have that luxury usually these days, so it's the Parent-Teacher Association that gets in there, makes the teas and coffees and for everything.
I think it's a very different system, really. I mean, as I say, I've never been in school here, so
No.
I just don't really quite understand how it works, as it were.
No, no. Well, it's interesting because in this article here from the Hampshire Chronicle, it says to find out more about governors, about becoming a governor, there's a telephone number which is 01962 845 706. That's 01962 845 706, or visit the Hampshire County Council website. So anybody who's interested in doing that, please get in touch. But I was surprised, 7,000 governors in Hampshire alone.
It is a big number, isn't it?
7,000.
How many schools? That's of course the thing.
That as well, yeah.
Well, this article,
say?
450 governing bodies.
Right, so probably 450 schools, yeah.
450 governing bodies. Would that be
Probably
Yeah.
schools, yes.
So that would make, what, 15 or 20 per school?
That seems an awful lot,
Yeah.
to be honest, but
Mm.
they're lucky if they've got that number.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Especially if it's volunteers.
Yes, yes.
Yes. I must admit, I didn't know much about them at all. I knew that they were there. We often talked about school governors, but I didn't know they were completely voluntary either.
Yes. But it's also a very good way to find out what's happening in your child's school.
Mm.
You know, what is going on, who the teachers are, being in a position to know when they come home and talk about somebody, who it is they're talking about.
Mm.
So it works both ways, I think.
And I've noticed, maybe I'm wrong, there are more teaching assistants now as well. Obviously they're paid, then they're not school governors, but there seem to be, I've met quite a few people who say they're teaching assistants. I think that's something, correct me if I'm wrong, which is there's more of now than there used to be, teaching assistants in the classroom,
I couldn't really say now, as I say, it was about 20 years ago when I was a school governor, but
back in the 90s.
I think teaching assistants are probably paid slightly less than teachers, so it may be one of the
Yes.
reasons why there's more teaching assistants, because school only has a set amount of money to work on. So, you know, if you're looking at hiring and you can get 2 teaching assistants for a nursery group, you might go with that rather than getting yet another teacher.
Ralph, what did you think about that? There are 7,000 school governors
Quite
in
honestly,
Hampshire alone.
I was staggered, to be quite honest,
Hampshire.
at 450 governing bodies.
Yes.
But then again, when you think of the number of schools, the number of colleges, etc., I suppose 450, it doesn't work out that many governors per governorship.
Yes. And also, there's an information event on Tuesday, the 8th of March at St Mary's Church, Goat Lane in Basingstoke from 10 a.m. to 6:30 for anyone interested in becoming a school governor, where they will get the opportunity to find out more about the role and talk informally with some school governors and governor services staff.
It's very worthwhile, I think.
I think I'm a little bit too old to become a governor now.
I enjoyed it, but you know, you also get to help the school find out what the school is doing and help direct the, you know, the patterns that they're going to and what they're going to do each year.
So a bit of influence as well.
Yes, yes. So you have a certain amount of influence there, yes. But I think it's very worthwhile if anyone's considering it. Certainly.
Yes. It's good, and it's good. I mean, I didn't, you know, I didn't even know until that you were actually a governor yourself.
Yeah, just a few years, about 4 years, I think. 4 or 5
So you give a
years.
very informed opinion on that. So great, some more great news there. Now, coming up, we'll be giving our views on national and local news. And if you want to have your say on any of the stories we're covering, you can email us on talk@thatsolent, that's talk@thatsolent.com. We'll be back to discuss more fascinating subjects after the break.
I believe that the very best stock is made from quality ingredients. That's why I use North stock pots, slowly simmered to perfection. They help give a rich and meaty taste that makes my best spaghetti bolognese. Simply stir in and really taste the difference. Some say you can't buy taste, but I disagree. North stock pots, try it for yourself.
With my poor credit, I felt toxic.
Finance companies were asking very high interest rates.
Couldn't afford it. My only option was an out-of-warranty used car for cash, or so I thought.
I called Wheels for Sure. A week later, I had a lease for a brand new car.
All manufacturer-backed and upgrade to a new one every 3 years.
I felt valued. Too good to be true? No, simply true.
Used car on a costly loan or an affordable new leased one, you know the choice.
For sure!
Click or call Wheels for Sure on 0800 044 5806 now. We can help.
Wow, look, it's a live cheetah. She's fast and dangerous. But do you know what's faster? When you download with BT Infinity. It's so fast. Is this safe?
It's perfectly safe. Oh gosh, do something.
Distract it. It's gonna eat me.
I've got meat! I've got meat!
Do I just stand still?
BT Infinity fibre optic broadband offers faster download speeds than Sky. The BT 50% knockout deal is now on. Get a thumping introductory offer of £5 a month on BT Broadband Plus. That's 50% off if you buy before the 22nd of December. With BT Broadband Plus, you'll enjoy a massive 50GB of BT Cloud storage and peace of mind with BT Net Protect Plus for your 12-month contract. You'll also be able to connect when you're out and about with the UK's largest network of Wi-Fi hotspots. And if you order online by the 7th of October, you'll get a £75 Sainsbury's gift card. Don't miss the BT 50% knockout deal. Switch to BT today. Call 0800 002 002 or visit bt.com/knockout.
As part of a government initiative, we're giving away insulation to millions of UK homes. And best of all, it's free. You don't need to be a British Gas customer, and you could save as much as £140 on your heating bills every year. Don't miss out. Be a part of the British Gas free insulation rollout. Search free insulation or call 0800 141 3223. British Gas, helping you look after your home.
Welcome back to Talk Solent, the chat show where we share our local views of news catching our eye. We have a diversity of subjects. Now, more on devolution of powers to Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, as devolution of powers to regions is in the news all over the UK now. So far, the idea of a metro mayor, that's a mayor for the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, has been rejected during negotiations over the benefits of devolved powers and devolved decision-making for our county and the island. Whilst appropriate for huge urban regions like Manchester or London, doubts and uncertainty have been raised over whether this is good for a large, diverse and extensively rural area like Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. So, would you be for a metro mayor? So that's like a super mayor for the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. So I hadn't heard much about it until now.
No, I must be honest, I don't really know much about it, but I would think it'd be very difficult to cover such a vast area, particularly a rural area.
I would agree with that.
Would you actually ever get to see your mayor stuck in a building somewhere?
That's right.
Would
yeah,
they go out and into the rural
I
spaces?
think Helena's made a good point there, because as soon as you get covering a whole entire area, the whole of Hampshire, the accessibility to them is going to be virtually nil.
Yeah.
And how are you going up the chain to get your opinion heard?
And it's the Isle of Wight as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's even further. You know.
I think we have enough trouble already with local councils getting to even see your local councillor, let alone a metro mayor. So it's
And this is actually 15 local councils this would encompass from across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. 15.
Yes.
I can't see the benefit personally.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
Because there's more and more emphasis now on powers going from Westminster over to the regions, and local people who, you know, many would say know more about the local area, know more about how money should be spent than people in Westminster.
I understand that, but I still don't see the need for one of them, as it were.
No.
You know.
I mean, you've got all these different councils that are working together, so what would be the point of a mayor overall, who won't know any of the councils particularly well? It's just somebody getting paid
for sitting around, really.
For sitting around, by the sounds of it.
And needless to say, in this Island Echo article, it says people are still very split as to whether they think this is a good idea, whether it's practical, whether it's beneficial. So no decisions have been reached. It's still very controversial and quite emotive at the moment. Yes, 15 local councils, but I know, you know, in France, the mayor is so much more important than in this country. The mayor is a central figure in any town. Here, the mayor is more like in this country, more like a
figurehead.
A figurehead.
Yes. Someone you get out to open a new shopping centre or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas in France, they are a central person you go and see, and they're always talking
obviously
about the
depends
mayor.
on the size.
I think quite honestly, this type of thing has been tried in Russia. They've had vast communes, they've had vast organisations covering vast areas, and the whole thing has been a complete and utter failure. The whole thing has collapsed inwardly.
I don't see the benefit, personally.
No.
Doesn't work. Sorry.
I mean, what we're trying to do is to move things from Westminster.
Yeah.
Locally, fine, that's a good idea.
Yes.
But then, why have an extra layer, as it were? Because that's all it's going to be.
Yes, this is it. I totally get your point. If you've got these different councils, it would be good for them to be able to use the money locally and to be able to direct where the money's spent locally.
Yes.
But then if you're going to have somebody who isn't of that council, who doesn't know anything about it, what is his input going to be? How can he actually add to the councils and to the working of the councils? I can't see that.
With respect, look at the EU. I mean, the vast amount of money which is completely and utterly unaccountable for each year. They have not in 20-odd years been able to close the books because of vast differences, and that is a vast organisation.
What some people might call an artificial amalgamation.
Yes.
Yes.
It is artificial.
Yes, and it's interesting that you mentioned the EU. I suspect in the next few weeks there'll be more discussion on Talk Solent about the European Union or the absence of the European Union, or the end of it, or still remains to be seen how it's all going to pan out.
The thing is, when we joined the European Union, it was a trading agreement, pure and simply. It was not a political alliance at all. And now it's becoming more and more political and more integrated. That's not what we signed up for.
That's right. Many people would agree with that. So, in a nutshell, are you all for devolution of powers to regions generally, or do you think it's something
I
which
think devolution
might not
of
make a lot
powers
of
to regions locally, yes, I think so. Yes.
For the counties?
Yes, I think each little section should be autocratic.
I like that. Autocratic.
Yes.
Metro mayor and autocracy.
And health autocracy.
Because metro mayor, I mean, it sounds like something. I'd only just discovered this term in the last few days when preparing this.
Sounds like he's the mayor for the train lines.
Do you know, when I first read it, I had to read it twice because I was like, what's that all about?
In France, the mayor is completely and utterly autocratic, and I mean, the mayor in one region will permit something which the mayor in the other region will say is no, because he knows the local populace, and he says, I would allow this. The other mayor in another region in France will say, no, this doesn't suit us, I will not do this.
And in France,
they're autocrats, and this is the way it should be. I'm sorry, but democracy does not always work.
And in France, you know, mayors can become prominent people, very much in the media, can't they? Very controversial
some of them are a bit celebrities to a degree, or would like to become one, shall we say? I can think of one in particular.
Right, because you're from the
northern region,
not in sort of the Calais region, actually, aren't you?
No,
not too far from
down.
Down a bit.
Down. Left a bit.
I'm just thinking that's northeast France.
No, I'm about 65 miles north of Paris, roughly.
65 miles north of Paris.
North of Paris.
But I was brought up in a small town, 4,000 people. So yeah, the mayor there was like, you know, part of it, probably part of it. Where I went to university, and the latest one, as it were, has tried to become a celebrity in the decision he's making and the way he's portraying himself, shall we say.
And it's interesting, Helena, you should mention trains, because we're going to move on to trains now and the Isle of Wight. Staying on the island and the Island Railway, and a recent letter to the Isle of Wight County Press. The recent report by Christopher Garnett is deemed excellent by the writer of this letter, except for the fact that it was designed, the railway, for a mid-19th century population, and a lot has changed since then, hasn't it just? If we're to encourage islanders to use public transport and not their cars, then we need new stations close to where people actually live and work. If the new tram goes ahead, as proposed, then the stops should be located to suit the island's modern-day needs. The writer actually offers a list of possible stops, which we'll take a look at in a few moments. So, have any of you used the Island Railway yourselves?
No,
I can't say I have. No.
Fortunately, no.
No.
Can't help you with that one.
But the buses, when I was young, on there, but that's about it.
I remember using the Island Railway in about 1990 on a day trip to the island when I was about 10. And it was the old London Underground carriages that were on the line. I don't know if they're still there. Does anybody?
Really don't know.
I have no idea.
No idea, sorry, no. I don't know nothing about this.
No. I would hope they've updated them a little bit.
Well, what's good about this letter, it's very, you know, John Graney from Brading has written this letter into the Isle of Wight County Press, and he's been quite concrete and specific. He said he's made a whole list of places where he thinks there should be new stations, you know, practical for the 21st century. For example, he's put, he would suggest a stop at Ryde Pier Head and Ryde Esplanade, then Simeon Street Recreation Ground, either accessible from Winchester Mews and Merrymead Close, or at the Rink Road Bridge. Now, I don't know the Isle of Wight, but I'm to the thousands of people on the Isle of Wight, that would mean something. So if they have a look at this letter, he's made a comprehensive list there, so he's done his...
I would agree. I think there are many more stations are. I mean, when Beeching actually many years ago, many of those stations they are now reopening up again.
Yes.
There's lots of extensions to exist now. The Bluebell line, as an example, has now been extended to East Grinstead, and all along the line, which they were discontinued under Beeching, suddenly they find a need for them in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, you know, 60 years ago, there were so many stations.
There were.
It was almost like bus stops, weren't they?
Yes. This is it. And I think if you're going to get people off the roads, that's the only way forward.
Well, yeah, you need to be able to stop.
That's it.
If
you're going to not drive your car, you've got to be able to walk to a station or get a bus to a station. So they've got to be far more localised. So that makes an awful lot of sense, even though I don't know what the stations are they're talking about. The area, but
it's going to be very interesting to see how this, the discussions over the Isle of Wight Railway progress over the next 12 months, because we're not in the mid-19th century now.
No.
A lot has changed.
I mean, I'm not sure if you know the answer to the question I'm just about to ask, but is it privately owned or?
That's a question. They were talking about giving local people more say over over how the railways on the Isle of Wight are run.
Right.
But that's a good question. I shall have to do some more research.
No, I just
on
think,
that.
you know, that could change things slightly if it is.
Yeah.
Because we're now talking about a company that is going to have to invest an awful lot, as opposed to, you know, just a letter suggesting this, that and the other.
This is it, yes.
I believe the franchise was up for review soon, up for grabs, and Islanders were going to have a say in who has that and who'd be best to run it. So more on that as we go in the coming months, I'm sure. Coming up, we'll be talking about free-range eggs and a hypnotherapist who offers sessions in the comfort of your own home. And if you have news that we should be talking about, then do contact us on our email, talk@thatsolent.com.
With my poor credit, I felt toxic.
Finance companies were asking very high interest rates.
Couldn't afford it. My only option was an out-of-warranty used car for cash, or so I thought.
I called Wheels for Sure. A week later, I had a lease for a brand new car.
All manufacturer-backed and upgrade to a new one every 3 years.
I felt valued. Too good to be true? No, simply true.
Used car on a costly loan or an affordable new leased one, you know the choice. For sure! Click or call Wheels for Sure on 0800 044 5806 now. We can help.
Big entertainment just got bigger. With BT TV, you now get bigger shows, bigger sports, and bigger movies. All for tiny prices.
Rebel, and now end with the big splits.
I can't do the splits.
It's okay, we'll do it with special effects.
All for tiny prices.
BT TV. Bigger shows, bigger sports, bigger movies.
Julia, Winston Wolf.
Yeah?
You were on your way to Marcia's hen party when you took a hit from a couple of wise guys.
Nightmare.
About your car. Does it smoke? Make a noise?
Yeah.
Call Direct Line. They'll arrange a hire car.
Won't have to wait for mine to go in for repair.
Not with Direct Line.
Oh,
What about us? Are you with Direct Line?
No.
Then on your bike, Buster.
Flora presents
Fit
by Katie.
When Mum was at work, she asked my brother Rob and his friend Nick to make lunch. Rob used Mummy's yummy Flora Light to make scrummy sarnies. She says it's even lighter than some of those light butters. And it's delicious. She's trying to eat healthier and get a bit fitter. It must be working because Nick said, your mum's really fit.
Oh.
I haven't seen him since.
Family life doesn't always go right, but with a lovely taste of Flora Light, you can't go wrong. Flora, tasty goodness for all the family.
How Sif broke the curse of the streaks. The princess cleaned and cleaned, but horrid streaks cursed her bathroom until she summoned Sif, Power and Shine. Sif banished all the lime scale and streaks. For 100% streak-free shine, there's always a beautiful ending with Sif, Power and Shine.
Welcome back to Talk Solent. I'm Jonathan Hines. Joining me on the sofa this evening are Helena Baylis, Ralph Harvey and Sophie Personne. Now, free-range eggs have become more and more popular, but just what does free-range mean? And do you know what you're buying when you buy eggs labelled free-range? Blackacre Farm has launched a campaign called No Multi-Tier Here to raise awareness of eggs labelled free-range, which are in fact laid by hens in the bird equivalent of high-rise blocks, you might say, where the hens are on several levels or tiers rather than on one level. Apparently, the term free range has now become ambiguous, and what it actually means in reality can vary enormously. Surely, if you buy free range, you'd think it would mean that hens are running around freely, wouldn't you, Ralph?
Well, indeed. I mean, to me, it's free range is essentially where they have open ground, where they can pick up insects, they can pick up worms, and where grain is spread from, and they're happy and they're free. The idea of battery hens, I find, is completely and utterly anathema to me. I hate any form of cruelty to any animals.
Of course, yeah.
And I think battery hens are extremely cruel.
Now, the fact that one thing that's mentioned in this article here, no multi-tier here, is if you can get 6 free-range eggs in inverted commas for 79p, surely that would make you doubt what you're buying. 79p for 6. Mr. Wood, who was speaking to Poultry World, said, how else can supermarkets offer free-range eggs 79p for 6 if they are completely free range?
I do quite question that, because even the you know, Hines brand range, the value range as it were,
yes,
in all supermarkets is actually more expensive than that anyway. So if you say 6 for 79p, I don't know, I would question the validity of the claim really, if I'm honest.
I mean, free range is becoming more and more popular, isn't it? But it can mean a number of different things, can't it, free range?
But this is so true. I mean, to free range, I say, should essentially be happy hens.
Yes.
The trouble is that you put eggs on the market and say, oh dear, people are going to be guided by price. Okay, we put the ordinary eggs up down to 20 pence a dozen, and now people will buy them thinking they're free range because they're more expensive. You see, you can't win in a situation like this.
Well, these multi-tier ones, you know, they're on several levels. Whereas other free range can be in a shed, still crowded in, but at least they're walking around and not in these tiny boxes. And we're close to outlawing it now, aren't we? You know, they're going to be banned. These.
Are they?
The trouble is that this country adheres to the law very, very strictly, as far as I can see, regarding free range. But you go abroad. You go abroad to the Netherlands, you go to Spain or so forth, or Portugal, etc., and there's free range there, and that free range does not exist. They're still confining hens in small areas.
I know a gentleman. He's passed on now, but he said that, you know, back in the 60s when it first became big to have these sheds, you know, battery hen sheds, he went into one, and he said it was so distressing. Back in the 60s, he felt sick. And,
Sophie, I mean, you're French. I mean, how would you find it in France with these vast sheds?
If I'm totally honest with you, I don't really know, because
that's fair enough.
When I left, I was still really a teenager, and I wasn't necessarily interested in where the egg came from, as it were. So I don't actually know. I expect it's exactly the same as it is here.
Fair answer.
I do know, I have friends whose parents have got farms, but it's more about cows and, you know, milk production than it is eggs. When I remember having to hope to give birth to a baby cow, that was a bit odd when I was 12 years old.
It's an experience.
It's not something you do every day.
Yeah, that's right. Because obviously there's more room in France, much more room. But does that necessarily mean there are less battery hens in France?
In theory, no. In theory, no, I would say not. No. They would still confine them in the areas like the fast sheds, because that's the way it is.
The problem is, are the supermarkets driving down the cost of eggs to our farmers, the way they've done with milk?
Yeah, possibly.
This is the problem, because yes, people do want to buy free range, but there are a lot of people who can't afford to pay just that extra, and therefore the supermarkets are pushing that. If that, what was it, £79?
79 pence for 6.
For 6. If
that doesn't sound like a free range price.
No, it doesn't. But if that is free range and they're pushing that down, they're going to do the same to our free range farmers as they've done to the dairy farmers. So I hope that's not correct.
And to think that free range would have been the norm, wouldn't it?
Yes.
100 years ago.
Well, we used to have our own chicken. You did. People in a village, you either all had your own, or you had 2 or 3 people that had them, and you went along and you gave them something, and it's changed.
Well, that's coming back, to be fair. I know more and more people will now keep chicken.
Yeah.
And expatriate chicken as well, and who just get their own eggs.
Yeah. Well, they're much nicer, certainly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And this is actually a campaign also to raise awareness about what people are buying or think they're buying when they see free range. Because I generally won't eat anything. The amount of times I've turned down chicken in restaurants, not because I don't want it, but because I don't know whether it's free range or not. And it's hard. It takes a lot of discipline, because loads of times I think, oh, I could just fancy that, but I've turned it down because I don't know if it's free range or not. And so I'd rather have nothing than chicken that's not free range, personally.
Is it not covered by trade's description? I mean,
it's not in menus though.
No,
I've never seen in the menu saying, unless it's a restaurant that actually set themselves by saying they source everything local, or I've never seen that on a menu, I've got to say.
It seems to be becoming the norm now, doesn't it? I mean, even McDonald's now will advertise, that made with free-range eggs. If you have one of their breakfast rolls, which I do love.
Yes, but
other fast food outlets are available.
But does that mean they're free range or they're barn range? You see, this is the thing, and I think that ought to be specific. If they're raised in a barn, it ought to say barn. If they're free range, that means they're actually out there, as you say, with the dirt beneath their feet, eating grass.
What we need to raise is an awareness in the public of taste. Because free egg strains have got more of what I describe as an eggy flavour to them, and are far more acceptable. The same as chicken. The chicken that is imported, so we say, from Thailand, which is bred on vast farms, crowded together, etc., it is tasteless. There is no taste to it whatsoever. I can remember when I was a schoolboy, many years ago,
not that long,
when chicken was a luxury, and it really did taste succulent. It was beautiful. It was crispy.
How far are we going back, Ralph?
At least 10 years.
From my age, I'm going back to the war years. I'm going back during the war. But if you went to, now chicken is so cheap. But when I was a schoolboy, it was the most expensive dish. Beef was the cheapest dish you could buy. All the poor people bought beef because that's all they could afford.
Right.
And if you went into school the next morning and said, I had chicken. Chicken? Wow, you must be millionaires. But that chicken was really chicken, and it was delicious. It's not anymore, I'm afraid.
No, it's true.
No, they import vast amounts of chicken meat, I'm afraid, from Thailand and China and places. I mean, why on earth are we importing from Thailand and China?
Very good point. Very good point.
I love corn-fed chicken. The one that is yellow
cheap,
on the
because
skin.
it's cheap. Nothing.
Nice.
Because it's cheap.
And as with all our subjects, we need an extra 10 minutes on each of them, don't we?
Don't we?
Now, hypnotherapy is becoming the solution for many to deal with many problems and issues, but what about if you could receive a visit from a hypnotherapist in the comfort of your own home? A hypnotherapist in the northeast of England has started offering sessions for up to 6 people at home. Normally you'd expect to go and see a hypnotherapist at their practice, wouldn't you? So what do you think about this one, Helena, first of all? I know you're a retired or part-time hypnotherapist.
Well, first of all, the fact that there's 6 people
is
slightly dubious, because when I was practicing, it would be one-to-one, or most of the time it would be one-to-one. Because I think when there's 6 people, well, you've got 6 different personalities, so it's harder to work with these people.
It said up to 6 people.
Well, I prefer one-to-one. It's so much nicer to work with one-to-one. In your own home, I think that's great if she's set up for it. or into their, sorry, it's going into their homes, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd never heard of it before.
It's not happened before. I don't see why it shouldn't. Obviously, you know, she needs to be a little aware of health, of safety precautions if you're going to people's homes.
Yeah.
But apart from that, people will be more relaxed in their own homes. So that's the start of hypnotherapy. You need to be able to relax. If somebody goes into a strange building, they can sometimes be a little uptight and a bit worried, a bit nervous. If you're in their home, you've taken away part of that. So they're already relaxed, might be a bit nervous still.
Ralph, what do you think about this one, in a nutshell?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, I think mass hypnotherapy is a no-no, to be quite honest. I think, as Helena and Sophie said, it's got to be on a one-to-one basis. That is what hypnotherapy. Me, I should have put myself into a trance than have six hypnotherapy, six people with one hypnotherapist.
I think this lady I think she'll do one-to-one, but she'll go to their homes, and I'd never heard of that.
But again, you have to say, what's it going to cost?
It's going to cost more to go to their home.
So if you have a mass hypnotherapy, you're probably spreading a certain cost over 6 people. It goes on a one-to-one basis, the cost is going to go up. And people, quite honestly, can they afford? But I cannot see that mass hypnotherapy is ever going to work. I wouldn't be interested in it, personally, and obviously Sophie and Helena also don't.
We've got more hypnotherapy discussion after the break. We'll be sharing more local views on the news, and if you have news that you think we should be talking about, then do contact us on our email, that's talk@thatsolent.com, or send us a tweet on Twitter account @thatsolent.tv.
With my poor credit, I felt toxic.
Finance companies were asking very high interest rates.
Couldn't afford it.
My only option was an out-of-warranty used car for cash, or so I thought.
I called Wheels for Sure. Week later, I had a lease for a brand new car.
All manufacturer-backed and upgrade to a new one every 3 years.
I felt valued. Too good to be true? No, simply true.
Used car on a costly loan or an affordable new leased one, you know the choice. For sure! Click or call Wheels for Sure on 0800 044 5806 now. We can help.
At Unilever, we want our brands to help create a bright future. Persil Small and Mighty is concentrated, so it does the same amount of washing, but is made with less water and uses less packaging, which makes a difference to our planet. Unilever makes some of the world's most well-known brands, and we're working to reduce our environmental impact. Smaller packs are just one of the ways we're helping to create a bright future.
I was really worried about Ivor, so I took us off to get tested, and actually, I'm just as bad.
Lowering cholesterol is about exercise, a healthy diet, and eating Flora Proactive every day.
Really? I'm going to cry. Can't actually believe it's been such a small change and it's made such a big difference. I really can't.
Lower your cholesterol with the natural power of added plant sterols.
Hello, you're watching Talk Solent. Great to have your company. I'm Jonathan Hines, and joining me on the sofa this evening, this Thursday evening, to give their opinions and expertise, Sophie Personne, Ralph Harvey, and Helena Baylis. And now more on the increased popularity of hypnotherapy, and the main government hospital in Abu Dhabi, in the United Emirates, is now endorsing and applying hypnotherapy for a diversity of different issues, and is seeming to be more effective and with faster results than other conventional therapies. Now, despite its increased popularity, hypnotherapy is only available privately in the UK for the most part, and not on the NHS. Now, Helena and Sophie, what do we think about this one, hypnotherapy on the NHS?
I'm all for it. I have had a number of conditions from birth, and to be totally honest with you, so far traditional medicine has failed me, and a combination of hypnotherapy and NLP I feel would help greatly. But yes, there's a cost associated with that, and not everybody would be able to afford it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Sophie said there. You know, I do feel that it would be very useful to have it on the NHS. There are certainly conditions where hypnotherapy, and I actually like hypnotherapy linked with NLP. I think it works better.
It's not so scripted then?
It's not so scripted, no. It's more designed to be with the person that you're working with. It would, of course, though, as we say, be an extra burden on the NHS. So I'm
but
not
would
sure
it
what will
really?
happen.
Because if you actually solve the problem and the root cause of it, then, you know, in my case, for the last, God knows how many years, I'm on tablets, I'm being seen by this consultant, that consultant, I've got hospital appointment galore. So really, it would probably be cheaper to put me on such a thing.
Yeah, that's the theory, but the NHS isn't very good at preemptive medicine, is it?
No,
if you look at anything.
Ralph?
Well, I quite honestly, I agree with both Sophie and with Helena, because I think, I mean, as a pagan myself, to be quite honest, I am very, very pleased to see that some of the esoteric sciences, which were people would have thrown their hands up in horror 20 years ago, are now coming into the fray. I mean, whether hypnotherapy is now becoming accepted. 20 years ago, it was anathema to everybody. Oh my God, you know, this is bordering on the occult and weirdos.
Yeah.
Right, and now it's coming in. It's coming into play. I mean, it's the same as with natural healing. I mean, there's all sorts of practitioners which are doing natural healing, etc., and all sorts of ointments and potions, etc., and now saying, oh dear, we are beginning to accept this now. So the more of these practices that come into it and are now recognised on the NHS, yes, frankly, the better.
But to be fair, I do think some consultants are also open to it because of my lack of results in the traditional methods. I've tried crystal therapy, which, you know, has led to a lot of amusement among some of my friends and some of the various incidents that came with it. Having said that, I've had some results from it.
Yeah.
And it's about, you know, being open to certain things and trying. It doesn't work for everybody. But I've had some consultants say to me, well, do you know what? If it works, carry on.
Yes,
definitely.
I mean, acupuncture, I'm not sure if acupuncture is available now on the National Health Service.
No, not in this country.
No, it's still not. But that's another one that should be embraced and brought in, because acupuncture, I do sincerely believe, works.
Yes. Now, something else which seems to be working, Ralph, we've got some of your books here. Now, we haven't got much time, but you are an author, and we've touched on a number of esoteric points today, and your speciality is fairies, Ralph.
Well, well, fairies, in actual fact, I was completely through an alien account I encountered in Ireland. Because, quite honestly, to me, I was brought up, fairies are a thing of myth and a fantasy, and you as an adult, you don't believe in fairies. But when I was in Ireland, I had an experience, which is probably too long to describe here, by which an invisible orchestra followed my wife and I everywhere we went, and we, in a little valley, which we did not know this was a hidden valley in Ireland, and when we went back where we were staying at Clonagall Castle at the time, and they asked us what we did, they were absolutely horrified to think that we had gone down in what they call the fairy realm.
Right.
And they said that this was their greeting to us, and this led me to be interested in fairies. I then wrote the book The Last Bastion, and I made a reference there to two fairies briefly. Had so many emails, I started an intense study of fairies, and I found, to my surprise, they did exist, and there's even a possibility they may. But the first thing you have to do is forget the fairy that is, as we know it, beautiful, it's got some little things, beautiful multicolored wings. They're described as cylindrical, it's globular, translucent, plain wings, highly intelligent, large eyes.
With a diversity of personalities as well?
Yes, and they lived in large colonies, but they were not the beautiful little creatures that you see in picture books.
No, some of them are more beautiful than others, maybe, depending on what your description of beautiful is?
according to the Reverend Kirk, who studied them in the 1600s, and he wrote curiously in a book called The Secret Commonwealth, and he studied them for over 40 years, and he eventually managed to get them to what we call fifth fat, or ship shape, or chain shape, and over the 40-year span, he was able to get them to become more humanoid in form, but only partially.
Right.
And that was in the 1600s. Most of the records on spheres to this day are still those written by clergymen who have studied them, strange enough.
Right, we could go on. Now we've got something, keeping with spiritual matters, you might say. Something for all you Capricorns out there. Apparently, if you're an employer, Capricorns are the most reliable people to employ. An article by Jamie Scanlon in the Huffington Post cites a list of very favourable and positive traits for Capricornians, including responsibility, ambition, loyalty, self-discipline, and time management. Flattering for any of our Capricornian viewers. I'm not one of them. But how accurate is personology or human character as explained and determined by your birthdays? I know I share at the office here with two other Sagittarians, so that's 3 of us in the same office. There's got to be something in that. Are you a believer, a total cynic, or do you think it's all too general? Now, first of all, are any of you Capricornians, and how typical are you of your sign generally? Any Capricornians here?
No, afraid not.
I'm a Sagittarian, I think, a typical Sagittarian.
Oh, well, there's 2 of us, yeah.
There's agreement there.
So
I'm an Aquarian.
Is this accurate?
The Capricorn bit, I think, is accurate. One of my daughters is a Capricorn, and very much that way, very much her own person, knows where she is, who she is good at what she does, on time, reliable.
So you don't think it's too general?
There are certain traits.
It's very difficult, isn't it, when you're talking about astrology, because you've got all these different people, and you've got different sorts of, whether the sun was rising, or there's so much more to astrology.
Yes.
That has to be taken, but as a sort of a general consensus, I think that's actually quite fair.
I agree.
Because I believe each sign is, from what I've studied over the years, is divided up into 3 decans, 3 weeks. So so you've got the very general look, the general sign. Then you've got 3 decans of a week long each.
Yes, yes.
But as Helena said, you know, it depends on the planetary alignment anyway when you're born.
Yeah.
But they are general traits.
Very general.
For people, and you know, obviously we're not all going to be the same, but they are general traits that normally you can kind of go by, I feel.
Yes. And you, Sophie,
I'm a Gemini.
You're
I'm
Gemini?
the dual personality.
Yes.
You've got the
Gemini.
Yeah, you've got the stubborn, conservative, and you know, very in my trench, and then you've got the mad one.
Yeah. I'm Sagittarius, but my moon's in Gemini, so.
Yeah, so you've got a bit of like, you know, very stubborn, conservative, and then mad and quirky. That's what I'm told anyway.
Yeah, I think you're probably a little bit on the right side there.
Quirky can both be wonderful traits, but they could also be. There's a positive. I think with all signs have strengths and weaknesses, don't they, Ralph?
Yes, yes. This is so true.
How accurate is all this then? In your opinion?
Well, I'll throw a test out to you. Look at the newspaper and look up all the predictions are made for you, but read yesterday's newspaper when the day has passed, and you'll be completely not disillusioned with astrology.
But that's not really astrology.
No,
that's new paper.
Again, too general?
Sorry. Much too general, and it's one person's view of it.
Yeah.
Yes,
and they're playing to the masses. They're going to, we're all going to be
told. Like Secretary, I look up yesterday's paper, and then look at what happened yesterday. I say, it's sorry.
It can't be right.
It can't be right. No.
That.
But that's a totally different thing.
And they cannot apply that to 1/12 of the population.
You feel like
it's ridiculous.
You feel like an Aquarian generally?
Yes, I think I am a little bit quirky.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I know her. She's an Aquarian.
I like to think I'm on the outskirts of, you know, new age, new beginnings, all this sort of thing.
Yeah, and not only do you have the decans, the weeks of the signs, but you have the cusp week. If you're born between the 18th and the 25th of the month, then you're 50-50. You're a cusp personality, so you're a blend of two personalities, and then you've got the rising sign and the moon sign as well. When you've got all those things, then you get a more in-depth and accurate...
But I also think I was supposed to be premature. No, so I wasn't supposed. I was supposed to be born in July, so I was premature. And actually, I show some element of cancer.
Yes, yes, it does.
It does
Interesting
impact.
Point. Interesting point. Yes. I always worry when I see these forced births where children are brought out in prematurely. They decide to burst the waters and bring the child forth. Is that astrologically going to affect them? It's a very, very interesting subject, which I'd like to study in more depth, to be quite honest.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Because the time of day is very...
Yeah, this is it. But it's when they bring a baby into the world artificially, and decide that they will terminate this pregnancy now because it's gone on too long, have they altered the astrological signing of it?
Another fascinating point. I hadn't thought about that.
No.
Well, that's all we've got.
It's a say interesting subject. I'd like to study it in depth.
Absolutely. We'll have to do a whole programme just on that.
Just on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Or more than one programme. Well, that's all we've got time for, unfortunately. My thanks to today's guests. Solent returns tomorrow at the same time. Thanks for watching. All the best, and goodbye.
This scene is about how all BT mobile plans come with a monthly spend cap.
So why the bee?
Actually, it's a wasp.
Because you can set a spend cap, it means you won't get stung with a nasty surprise bill at the end of the month.
Willem, here is the spend cap flamethrower. Before all the details.
Like that?
That was the only wasp?
Was I not supposed to do that?
With BT Mobile, all plans come with a monthly spend cap so you can avoid nasty surprise bills.
I was really worried about Ivor, so I took us off to get tested, and actually, I'm just as bad.
Lowering cholesterol is about exercise, a healthy diet, and eating Flora Proactive every day.
Really? I'm going to cry. Can't actually believe it's been such a small change and it's made such a big difference. I really can't.
Lower your cholesterol with the natural power of added plant sterols.
London's only 2.5 hours away, so treat yourself to a weekend in one of the world's 2 great theatre districts. At West End Plus, we've got great value tickets on all the big West End shows and city breaks where you can book your tickets, travel, hotel and restaurants all in one place at fantastic prices. There are even discounts on some of London's best loved attractions. Book your break in London with westendplus.com.
With my poor credit, I felt toxic.
Finance companies were asking very high interest rates.
Couldn't afford it. My only option was an out-of-warranty used car for cash, or so I thought.
I called Wheels for Sure. A week later, I had a lease for a brand new car.
All manufacturer-backed and upgrade to a new one every 3 years.
I felt valued. Too good to be true? No, simply true.
Used car on a costly loan or an affordable new leased one, you know the choice.
For sure.
Click or call Wheels for Sure on 0800 044 5806 now. We can help.
Coming up on the programme, Southampton's plans to become the European capital of culture. As the refugee crisis continues, we speak to a local documentary maker who's visited the jungle. And Portsmouth's oldest shopkeeper shares the secrets of business and personal longevity. Hello, I'm Charlotte Breer-Edney. Welcome to the programme. Now, has Southampton got what it takes to be a future European capital of culture? Yes, it does, according to the city's Chamber of Arts. The organisation works to promote local art and hopes to help the city achieve the prestigious accolade. Richard Enston reports.